We have Xeno in North Carolina. Thanks for waiting. You are on with Ian and Matt. How can we help?
Hey, Matt. So I believe I can convince you of a God, but the problem is I believe you're too narcissistic to really understand that reason and argue with it.
Okay.
So if you could get into the conversation with me.
Hey, Xeno. Okay, let me stop right here because I'm going to let you do this. Okay. Here's the thing. Probably not the smartest thing to suggest that, because you just said you think you can convince me, and then you gave the reason why I won't be convinced. So evidently you don't think you can convince me. So I'm not even going to waste your time because evidently you're convinced that I'm a big old fucking narcissist and I'm just not going to pay any attention. So why don't you present your argument to Ian, and I'll kind of sit back a bit. Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Xeno. Hi there.
Hey, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And it's a privilege to talk to you. Thank you for phoning in.
Same. It's a pleasure. So the thing is that the world is such a big place. The universe is so large and we're so tiny that we make these very silly assertions. We have very silly opinions on almost everything. We believe that the things that we've discovered with science is factual. We believe that, our current epistemology using the scientific method is the best way to figure a lot of things out in this world. I guarantee you 1,000 years from now, we'll understand a method that's 100 times better than the current method that we have. So with that being said, go on.
No, I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm very interested in what you have to share.
With that being said, yes, when we're talking about a God, I'm a deist, by the way. When we're talking about a God, what definition are we going based off of? And the definition is really what matters. If I say a God, has no description, we can't describe exactly what that is. Then it's not like a spaghetti monster or a pink unicorn. We're not giving it like a color or a material. So what I'm saying is this God could be like a particle. It could be like a neon fucking prism, and it grants life.
Now Xeno, well, it's a pleasure to listen to you. You said that you are a deist. Do you actually have yourself, whether it's a description or a definition or an appreciation of what kind of God or deity you actually think is a real thing?
Yes. So I get signals, I get signs. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it looks like because I can't do that. Like if you're in an aircraft and there's something on your radar, that's pulsating on your radar. We don't have to have a description of what it is. We know we have a signal. So what I'm saying is I have a signal of what this deity is. This deity produces life.
And are those signals the main reason that you think this deity is real?
Simply because, number one, you have to look
sorry. There's a question. I'm sorry, Xeno. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. It was just a question. I was saying the signals that you have referred to, is that the main reason why you think this deity is real and not imaginary? Or are there other reasons that you're going to come to?
Absolutely, because the signal is there, and I acknowledge that signal.
Right. And is that anything that I can experience, or can I test or check that the signal you're referring to is coming from a deity, or is coming at all, or is from something else? Or is that just going to be something that's personal and important to you?
No, you can test this. I can ask you a question to prove that you can test this. Do you know what the reduction to absurdity is?
I've heard of reductio ad absurdum arguments, yes.
Okay. And so we know we can start reducing things to start understanding that there are maybe some facts that we probably can conceptualize, and from reducing a number of things, we can come up with that answer. Correct? So
that's
not what I asked. I love talking to you, but what I said was the signal or signals that you're reporting. Is there any way for me or anyone else to test and to check and to verify whether they are really coming from some external agent or you're imagining them?
Yes, the answer is yes. And I was answering your question. I was saying that you have to use the reduction to absurdity in order to test that signal. So it's definitely in response to what you were saying. You're going to have to use that method in order to test it out. And by testing that, and which I'm going to tell you how to do, first you have to ask yourself a single question, which is, where does space, time, and matter come from? Why is one single cell more complicated than a rocket ship? And with these questions, you understand how tiny you are in this universe, and you understand how much gray area is outside, right? So first of all, we know now it can't be irrational to start. Let me see. How can I word this? It's not irrational to believe there are things in this gray area when you understand there's so much out there. So you have to
understand. The universe is big, and we're very small. The universe is big, and we're very small. There's lots of things we don't know. I'm still trying to check, right? What's important here is the signal or signals you think originate outside of yourself, outside of your own mind. And I'm really interested in that. That sounds like an amazing thing to report. I haven't heard anybody else describe it in quite that way. But I want to know, how can I know if that's true or whether you're imagining it?
Because logically, let me ask you a question. Are there any games you play or
don't
anything?
It's not about games I've played. It's how can I conduct an empirical test.
Sorry, no games. Have you ever programmed anything? It could be a software.
Yeah. I worked in IT for like 10 years.
So and I wanted to say, I'm not trying to say life is a game or anything like that, and it's not a program. But what I'm saying is you are the creator of that software using tools that was given to you on Earth. How would you explain, let's say, C++ to a person who knows absolutely nothing about C++, right? And then
Xeno, I have to interrupt here. I have to interrupt here no matter who gets mad. I really wish that you would just answer his question, because you compared the signals that you think you're getting to blips on a radar screen. The difference, of course, is that if there were a radar screen here, even if we don't know what it is, I can point to the blip and I can show you, how the radar thing works, and I can identify this thing. I think what Ian's trying to get to is, you're claiming to pick up a signal. How can he test his signal? And when you went with, well, you need a reductio ad absurdum, and then you misdescribed reductio ad absurdum, because it's not really about reducing things. It's not about the size of the universe. A reductio ad absurdum is a logical argument where you assume something for the sake of showing that it leads to a contradiction, therefore disproves it. It's a logical argument. It doesn't matter how big the universe is or how the cell is. Ian wants to know how he can get this same signal, or verify that the signal that you're getting is something he can check himself. Yeah,
how doesn't have to be me doing the checking. How can anybody?
Yeah.
Xeno, we'll get to your answer in just 30 seconds, I promise. I am going to shut up. I just want to explain, get to a point. Sometimes when people call in to the show and we're discussing these issues and it's really interesting, it's on a kind of academic, detached sort of level. They're just interested in the philosophy of it, maybe. And sometimes it's really personal and it's really important, and this belief is really matters to you emotionally. Which of, I know it's not necessarily a straight binary choice, but which of those two camps are you in? Does this really matter to you personally?
No, I would be totally fine if I realized there was no God. Totally fine.
Okay. I only ask because if it really matters to you emotionally, I don't want to be the guy who takes it away from you. I just want to see if I can help you to open some doors.
You're not taking it away from me. It's just something I've thought long and hard about, and
sure,
it's one of those things that's just it's just logical and it's reasonable for me to believe. I understand that some people are not convinced, It doesn't matter
That's
if
right.
I'm convinced or if someone else is not convinced.
Is there a way,
Kinda like
an independent, empirical way for someone else to check the reality of these signals? Can we check that they actually exist?
I think, yes, when you say check, that's kind of a floppy word because there's so many different ways you can check something. When I say reductio ad absurdum,
Just give me one.
I'm saying like an example. Okay, wait, I will. So if I say rocks have weight, if they did not, they would float in the air, right? Okay. If I say the reductio absurdum to life would be creation, therefore is not randomized, it makes sense, then we could not be here. Then that would be the reductio ad absurdum. But I'm not going to say that's your proof. I'm not going to say that is concrete proof.
Xeno,
go on.
Okay, I've stayed silent just about as long as I can. I don't want to be disrespectful to you or Elon. I don't want to be disrespectful to either one of you. But first of all, you just said rocks have weight or they would float in the air, which demonstrates a monumental misunderstanding about mass and gravity. But also then you went to creation isn't randomized, but you haven't demonstrated that there is a creation. So you're using language about things that is poisoning the well and assuming the very thing you're trying to prove. All Ian and I want to know is these signals that you think you're detecting, how can we detect them as well? I don't care whether you use what language you use. You're claiming to detect something. Can you tell us how we can detect the same thing?
Yes.
Then
and
please do.
I'm doing that. I just don't think
you're not, though.
So I would, but Matt, I don't think you're capable of understanding this. So I want to try.
You know what? If you talk about me being incapable of understanding and a narcissist one more time, I'm going to hang up on your fucking ass. I've given you 8 minutes, and Ian has been here patiently. Okay, fuck yourself. Ian's been sitting here talking to you patiently, saying, "Please demonstrate this to us." And I'm trying to steer a show. You're either going to demonstrate it or you're going away. Which one is it?
Well, don't jump in then. I can't.
Goodbye.
Well,
he's still here. He's still here. I would like for him to prove that he can actually answer the question that you've asked repeatedly. Are you going to do that? Nope. He hung up. I didn't hang up on him. He hung up.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting if those, the first time somebody claimed X-rays existed, there was doubt until he actually proved it. And then there was the Z-rays thing, which didn't turn out to be true because they aren't. So when people say we can detect signals, it's kind of interesting. If they existed, that would be great. Yeah, it'd be fantastic.
It's one of the things that I think a lot of people are really confused about when it comes to this show. And okay, granted, I got 8 callers on hold. I'm trying to be respectful of their time as well. But when you have someone, and I don't mean to beat up Xeno, I'm not going to, but if you call in and the first thing out of your mouth is, I could prove it to you, but you won't understand it. You're a narcissist. And then I back out. And Ian is sitting here patiently asking you, please tell us how we can detect this thing you've detected. And you start misrepresenting rocks and weight and gravity and creation. And you don't even know what you're like, oh, but do you know what a reductio ad absurdum is? When Xeno himself does not properly understand a reductio ad absurdum. It is an argument where a premise is assumed in order to show that it leads to absurdity, ridicule, contradiction, and therefore can't be true. Let's assume the earth is flat and then show that it can't be. But it's really strange.
You don't think the earth is flat?
I think it's locally flat in some places, like where they leveled the ground to build my house. It's pretty flat.
Right. Okay.